All right. Well, welcome back to the STR pod, episode number 43 of the Start the Rebuild. It has been over a year since we've recorded one of these. So, Tim, I got to ask. Well, first off, episode 43, the Troy Polamalu episode, the Darren Sproles episode. I know you got one going on.
The only one that popped into my head first was Justice Hill, Ravens rotational third down running back.
Okay.
But one that was missed was Pascal Siakam.
Big one. Terrell Bernard used to wear number 43, but he wears number eight
Mhm.
for the Buffalo Bills now. So that doesn't count
That's
because he
actually
changed numbers to the single digits. But
also
he
wait,
is
lesser known one. I just have to throw this out there
okay.
'cause it's
Let's hear
funny.
it.
Thanasis Antetokounmpo is 43.
Wow.
Yeah,
The inverse of 34, right? Because Giannis
right.
wears 34. Well,
Correct.
he is Tim Fournier. I am Ian Mills. Tim, I got to ask, what have we been up to the last 13 months since we've recorded a podcast here for Start the Rebuild?
Since last May.
Yeah.
Um,
May 5th was the last episode,
May
2025.
5th. Wow. Well, for starters, still living in Charlotte.
Yep.
Started a new job last year, so working full time and still finishing up grad school. Got another year of that left, but working full time in real estate development, so that's going good. Um, I have a girlfriend now.
There we go.
That should have probably been first.
Yeah, come
Um,
on.
yeah, that's a bad
This guy
showing.
stinks.
Um, those are, I would say, like the big updates, new job, new girlfriend. But other than that, still just sort of chugging along in Charlotte.
Yeah.
But I do want to get into doing this again. I feel like I've had some more things fall into place in my life, and I still want to leave some room to have some creativity in there that I like to keep in my life, and I'm trying to figure out where that is. And we were talking, and we are like, why don't we just still try to keep this going? Like,
Yeah.
what thing?
Yeah, I think as you get older, I say that as you're 25, feeling like unk, but I think as you get older a little bit, like you do kind of appreciate just doing something for the fun of it and not for much else. Like we want to obviously get this traction and all that, but like a lot of it's just us talking, catching up, hanging out. We obviously grew up very good friends, one of our best friends, and now it's like we just don't catch up as much. So that's like part of the reason why I love it, but also an outlet to just talk more sports than we typically normally do. So, with all that being said, Tim, the NBA Finals. It is
Well, first, do you
Friday as
want to
we
give an
record this.
update for what's been up with you for the last
Oh,
year?
for me,
On
well,
now.
not much has changed. Still living in Rochester, working in Rochester. I will say, May May of last year, I had I was less than a year into my job. Now I'm almost 2 years into this job that I've been working Channel 10 in Rochester. And I've been to like a million Bills games, a million Sabres games, and like more professional sports coverage, which is always super, super cool. So staying very busy, but that's of course work stuff. Working on a, I think I actually mentioned this. I was probably working on it the last time we had a pod, maybe around that time or a little after. But I've been working on this documentary about the Rochester Amherst, which is set to come out like next month. So that's also occupied a lot of my time as the Bills and Sabres are kind of out in the off season. So a lot of Bills, a lot of Sabres, a lot of documentaries. Still with my girlfriend of nearly 4 years. Shout out. Going on vacation with her
Oral?
in a couple weeks. So I don't know, just doing what I've been doing, but doing a lot more of it, and I think a lot better at it. So
I
covering
think
the Stanley Cup playoffs. So it's good. It's decent, It's good life. It's good life so far. So, but as we said, it is Friday as we record this. On Saturday, it is game five. The New York Knicks will have a chance to secure their first NBA Finals championship series win, whatever you want to call it, since 1973, 53 years in the making. Tim, before I toss it to you, Spurs choked real bad in game four. That much we know. 29-point lead that was erased. De'Aaron Fox, really bad. But I think even worse than De'Aaron Fox, Mitch Johnson, the San Antonio Spurs head coach, has been like embarrassed pants by Mike Brown this series. I watch it and like their offense is like what I run in 2K, where it's like De'Aaron Fox brings it up, awful pick by Victor Wembanyama, and then like just no matter if Wemby's open or not, just hopefully pass it to him. And in the fourth quarter, it was like De'Aaron Fox was just turning the ball over. I don't know. I didn't get to watch the first half of that game, so I don't know it was working for the Spurs. Maybe it was working for the Spurs, but in the fourth quarter, when like they needed a bucket at any time, it was just the default where they went to. At half the time, it was De'Aaron Fox with the ball in his hands and Victor Wembanyama, reaching for a ball that was not even close to him. So I got to ask, who in your mind, who is at fault, or maybe who deserves the most credit for the Knicks being up 3-1 as we stand heading into Game 5?
Well, in terms of the most credit, I want to kind of get into this a little bit as well. I'm seeing, well, first of all, OG Anunoby has been absolutely insane in
Yeah,
terms of being like you drop the prototypical, like really good size, really long, really strong, really good defender, and then just simply doesn't miss threes from the corner. That's like the perfect ancillary piece to any offense in the NBA currently right now, and he has the amazing tip in. He has the block right before that. A lot of hype, and I've seen as much as him being. I haven't looked at the odds, but I feel like I keep seeing this that he's the Finals MVP.
yeah,
And I think from the way the award is like typically given, like historically how they do it, I think he has a really good argument. But it's really hard for me to say that the most valuable player on the Knicks, despite not having the most efficient series at all, is Jalen Brunson. Like if you go
right.
and you look at like who is driving the Knicks forward and who is shouldering the most load on what they have to do, it's Brunson. So in my eyes, it really should just be like if you win the finals, your best player kind of gets it because they draw the most attention. Like
Yeah,
OG Anunoby, for the most part, he's doing a lot. He's doing really well. I've seen a lot of times in this series, he's had the best ability to like get an angle on Wemby and then like stop, shoulder, like go up strong with two and actually finish where everyone else from behind Wembanyama just kind of pins it against the backboard every single time. So he's been amazing, but it's a lot of creation off of Brunson. They're sending so much pressure with him up top, and it gets swung around because they send another defender, whatever it may be, and he gets the open shot in the corner.
yeah.
So the biggest reason I guess they are winning this series is because Anunoby is playing so well, but the most important piece to their team is Brunson, and they got Karl Anthony Towns playing some of the best basketball of his career, especially the first two games.
Yeah, I actually just looked at it. Jalen Brunson is the slight favorite. He's
Okay,
minus 115. Ananobi is plus 210, at least on the book I'm looking at right now.
that's what I think it should be.
I Ananobi's so tough, man. Because watching game 4, the dramatic, like emotional reaction is like, how does OG not win it? But the Knicks are kind of the epitome to me. Like they're the closest we've had to the like early 2000s Pistons. That
Mhm.
I'm not saying they're that because I think Jalen Brunson is better than Chauncey Billups, but it's the closest we've had to that team.
It's
Just
very like
because,
the team is what's driving it versus
correct,
there's just one player that's the best basketball player
yeah,
on earth and they're winning.
right. And Mike Brown and Larry Brown, both last name Brown, like both obviously very successful head coaches, and yeah, I think when that happens, you kind of do go to like the moments, so to speak. So that's why I could see why OG would win because of, like the quote unquote block on Fox and obviously the tip in. But you're right, like Jalen Brunson's usage rate, like half their offense is him dribbling as much as humanly possible and then kind of figuring it out. Like they've asked a lot of him all playoffs, all, this entire run. So I wouldn't be mad if Jalen Brunson wins it. But yeah, I don't know. I think for me right now, as good as the Knicks have been, and they deserve all the credit in the world, I don't know if I'm off on this, but like this Spurs team has had, it feels like it's been there, and it feels like they just maybe they just like I don't know if it's them being young or I'm using that as a as a like a crutch, but it does feel like the moment has been too big for them and specifically Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, it's I struggle with that though. It's because the easy answer is just, oh, they're all so young. And that's what we're seeing kind of play out in real time here. But I struggle with that because they go up against a veteran, for the most part, Timberwolves team,
Yeah.
and get punched a little bit around there early on, and they figure it out and they win that series decisively. Then they go against a more battle-tested Thunder team. Granted, there were some injuries, but they battle through an entire series and get through that. So I guess maybe the youth is just kind of finally showing itself finally now.
Yeah.
Um, Part of it is they had a tougher road to the finals than the Knicks by a lot. And on top of the experience, the Knicks are fresher and more experienced, and they're just kind of ready for this moment a little bit more versus you're seeing the Spurs kind of falter a little bit down the stretch. And ultimately, as much as I love De'Aaron Fox being a former King, and I think he's just like I've just liked De'Aaron Fox for a long time. He's the guy they're paying to sort of be this
Yeah.
guy that's supposed to settle him everything down at the end. And I think he probably thought, like I am the veteran and we're losing a huge lead. Like everyone calm down. I'm gonna calm us down and get us a couple, big buckets here and calm everything down. I'm a former clutch player of the year. Like I can get a shot off whenever. And he's just objectively been really bad,
Yeah.
especially for what you're invested in him.
Yeah. I mean, he's been like they're basically their point guard all series, and it's just like you watch him at the end of game four. It was like he's taking another shot, and no, you like he hit the one big three. He hit one big three in game four, and then he hit obviously a huge shot in game three too. So like you kind of want to give him the credit, but like one guy making one shot when he takes 8 attempts in the fourth quarter, you're like, I don't know if I'm going to give him credit for the one. Like, what? Like
Yeah.
Wemby, obviously Wemby was at the line and missed 2 free throws, which really cost them the game. But like, it felt like they were trying to get him the ball, and Fox just couldn't figure it out. He couldn't get it to him, and like that's probably a credit to the Knicks defense and Cat at certain points. Like he's been criticized for not scoring in the fourth quarter through the first 3 games, but his defense deserves a lot of credit specifically because of who Karl Anthony Towns has been his entire career. Now, with that being said, Tim, to the San Antonio Spurs down 3-1, have a chance to come back in this series whatsoever, or is this thing over?
I think after a loss like this, it is really brutal. But if you look at it the way this can go, if they can win, if they can screw their head on straight after that horrible, horrible loss, and win in San Antonio, which is not far-fetched. Like
Sure.
the total point margin in this series is what, like Knicks like +8 or whatever
Yeah.
it is I saw
Yeah.
today. Even though the Knicks won by 10 in game, like every single game has been like razor thin. They can just win at home. There's going to be so much pressure on the Knicks to close it out in game 6 in New York. And they can just put the Knicks into that situation. I think that's kind of just going to be anything can sort of happen. And obviously, if they win that, then they get to game 7 at home. But
Yeah.
they win this next game, which it's pretty much, I mean, I guess I give a little bit to the Knicks just in the sense of like what just happened in that game. Like, I guess I'd favor the Knicks to win this next game a little bit, but it's by no means like I think that Knicks have an 80% chance of winning. I think it's more 60-40, 55-45. But they can just win this. There's going to be so much pressure on the Knicks to win
Correct.
in New York. Like,
Yeah.
we see how crazy that place is. And
Yeah,
it's,
I think that's the fallacy of like 3-1's got to be so hard. And it is because typically there's a reason one team is up 3 games to one. But it like genuinely, it's like, okay, you win at home and then you still went on the road, like, especially if it's been a close series like this. So I could see the Spurs, but coming back from a game like that where they blew that lead, like emotionally, I'm almost glad for the Spurs that they have the extra day off because if they had to play tonight, I don't know. That's really tough to come back from. So I fortunately or unfortunately, I'm not a Knicks fan, but yeah, I think Knicks. I think the Knicks are pretty. I think they'll take care of business on Saturday, and this conversation will be for naught. But nevertheless, NBA Finals on Saturday. Any final thoughts before we move on?
I think one just quick thing that I think comes up pretty much every year, especially at this point, is the NBA regular season is just so different than the playoffs in terms of the speed and physicality. that it really makes you think in terms of like, 'cause here's OG Anunoby, in his best seasons averaging, I mean, I can look it up right now.
I got
Like,
you.
how many points do you think OG Anunoby in his best season has averaged? I don't know if it's
I
this
don't know,
15,
18.
17.
It's 18. Yeah, 18. And
So
that's that was last year.
if you look at like the regular season and go back in time 4 or 5 months, you might be like, okay, Darius Garland, Keontae George, OG Anunoby, like they're all kind of like similarly valuable
Right.
players. And then you get into this series, if Darius Garland and Keontae George were in here, they would be like borderline unplayable because they just get pushed around so much. And OG Anunoby is literally the reason the Knicks are winning the finals. And it's like, oh, it like puts it into perspective of like what actually plays when you get to this point. And it's really
Yeah,
it's interesting.
I agree. I also think like we grew up in an era where the finals weren't usually that close. Like it was the Warriors sweeping the Cavs, felt like perpetually. And I think obviously before that you have really great series between the Spurs and the Heat. The Heat, take care of the Thunder. So maybe that's part of you can add that into like the blowout series. But I think for me, like for the longest time, I was like, oh, the NBA Finals, like it's gonna be like almost the winner's almost obvious, which is not the case. But I've always kind of been under that assumption. But like if you look back 15 years, like maybe even dating back to the 2011 Mavs Heat, where it's like, oh, I think the perception was okay, the Heat will take care of business. Obviously, Dirk in 6 games. Then the Heat take care of the Thunder, and then you have the two great Spurs series. Even the Warriors series, like obviously you have 2016 when LeBron won, and then now that we're at like this stretch of parity, where it's like I think even during this stretch of parity where we've had what a new champion since like no back to back since what 2019. I think like the one series where you were like, okay, that wasn't going to be close was probably the Nuggets versus the Heat. In my mind, if I like, I feel like that was like the only one. But I say all that to say I'm kind of rambling here, but I say all that to say is like going into the series, I was like, oh, whoever comes out of the West is going to beat the Knicks because I perceive them as the better team. They have been the better team all season long. And then you actually watch the games and you realize it doesn't really matter. Like it genuinely, as you mentioned, the margin for error is so slim, and the Knicks have played very buttoned up and obviously very successful. Even with Jalen Brunson struggling with field goal percentage, and the Spurs have just like they've had leads, they've played well, they've been the team we've expected them to be, and then it all kind of falls apart. And I don't know, I feel like every time I watch the NBA playoffs, I love it because of that specifically, but I always have to remind myself, like last year with the Pacers, like the Pacers were like a shot away. I know, game seven wasn't that close, but the Pacers easily could have won the NBA finals last year. Like we could be talking about this, like, oh, isn't it crazy? The Thunder have never won an NBA finals. Yeah, you got it. Like, so it's just the NBA finals in general. The razor, the margins are so thin, and the Spurs just like they lose game one and game two, and you're sort of like, okay, it looks pretty bad, but like, hey, they're still the better team. They'll figure it out. Game three, it kind of seemed like maybe that was the case, and then game four, you really thought it was, and just it's falling apart. So yeah, we'll see. But we'll move on now to a little bit of NFL. OTAs are winding down this week. Mandatory minicamp is winding down. Training camp will be about 6 weeks out, depending on the team, 6 or 7 weeks out. Obviously, we had a couple of big trades. Myles Garrett to the LA Rams, and AJ Brown to the Patriots. Which one to you is the bigger? I think I know the answer to this. Which one's the bigger needle mover as we sit here in June?
I think Miles Garrett's the biggest
Yep.
trade to happen in a long time. I saw a lot of people saying is this the biggest trade in NFL history, and I saw a lot of people not mentioning like the best player to be traded. Yeah, I think in my memory, at least of paying attention to the NFL, I think he's the single best player. Um, but from their own team, Matthew Stafford just being a quarterback
Right.
might have been the most valuable player traded, at least that I can think of. Um,
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey, low key was also in our. I mean, obviously, running back is kind of probably what
yeah,
holds him back there. But
yeah. At the end of the day, Myles Garrett just had defensive player of the year season, one of the
yeah,
best, not the best defensive season ever. So I think, first of all, from a just value of the trade standpoint, I thought it was very fair for both sides. What is 30 plus year old Myles Garrett bringing to the Browns that's helpful to them? They get younger. Jared Verse is a really good player. He's probably more in the like top 10 range of edge rushers, and he's 5 years younger. He's cheaper. Myles Garrett is just like far and away the number one. Like he's like two tiers above number two and three. Um, but then I thought they got good draft compensation as well.
Yeah.
Getting what was it like a first, a second, and a third, something like that.
Yeah, first, second, and third.
And I think that just makes a lot of sense for the Browns. I don't really know what the point of having Myles Garrett is on that team, and the Rams. Um, are in very win now mode. I've seen a lot of hate towards them in terms of why the heck would you use your first round pick on your backup quarterback if this was the case. I think people tend to get too like this team is in this mode. They have to do everything this way. This team is as in this team's a contender. They have to be like all short term, and this team is
Yeah.
rebuilding. They have to be all long term thinking. I think for the most part, you have to think that. But at the end of the day, you only have a certain amount of resources to use in the NFL, given the salary cap, trades, draft, everything like that. And you have to kind of pick and choose where you want to go. And if they have an opportunity to draft a quarterback that they like, I don't necessarily know if he was 13th overall pick good, but if they like him and that's their opportunity to take him, I think that's what allowed them to do all of this. They can trade their first
Yeah.
round pick next year because they're getting, if, Stafford gets hurt this year and the season gets ruined but and whatever it may be, if whatever their chance was to get a quarterback next year, they don't have to worry about that. They can trade that pick. They can get Myles Garrett. And I think that was a very good use of all their resources.
Yeah, I mean, not that this is the reason they drafted Ty Simpson, but if Matt Stafford gets hurt this year, at least there's a little bit of optimism, even if probably not going to win the Super Bowl with Ty Simpson, but like there's at least a little bit of, okay, we have our guy now. Um,
What if his back flares up and he's out a month? Like that could ruin your
right.
season. Like, if you lose 12 games,
Exactly.
you can miss the playoffs.
Right, exactly. So like you'd probably rather have Ty Simpson over Jimmy Garoppolo, I would think. I don't know. Like it depends on how you feel about Jimmy G and how you feel about Ty Simpson, but there's at least a little bit more optimism with Ty Simpson. Now, you mentioned obviously the compensation. Two questions. I had a lot of people complaining, see a lot of people online complaining that Sauce Gardner went for more first round picks than Myles Garrett. Just completely like ignoring the fact that Jared Verse was traded, which drives me insane because Jared Verse, as you mentioned, like probably top,
Yeah.
borderline
If
top 10
Jared Verse
guy,
was in this
whatever.
draft, he probably would have gone second overall.
Yeah, it's so
It's
it's
a bad draft,
preposterous.
but still.
Yeah, and whatever, like Jared Verse, you Albany guys, shout out. But um secondly, the more important question with Myles Garrett, they traded him, as you mentioned, 30 years old now. He'll be 31 by the end of by the start of the playoffs in 2027. If the Browns had made this trade 3 years ago, like how different is the compensation? Is it different at all? Like the Browns, I think I'm not saying you should have traded the past like the a generational pass rusher 3 years ago because he's a generational pass rusher, but clearly they haven't won. It makes sense to offload him. But how different, if at all, do you think is the compensation? 27-year-old Myles Garrett to 30-year-old Myles Garrett.
Um, well, there's always contract stuff involved. I don't remember what the numbers are. I think they like
Yeah,
restructured his contract or something just now, and it was huge. So
yeah.
he would have been getting top of the line money anyway. Um, how different would it be?
I don't think it's that different. Like I think it's probably like the draft picks. It might be a first, two first and a third, as opposed to a first, second, and third. But like I don't know. I feel like they still sold relatively high on a 30-year-old pass rusher. That's great. I mean, he literally just like set the single season. Yeah, he literally set the single season sack record last year or
Yeah,
tied it.
I think it made a lot of sense what they did, especially in the fact that they got a really valuable player in return.
Yeah.
And when you're like, oh, we have a 3-year window and we have the best defensive player in the league, at the time you're kind of like, okay, well, ideally, like we can figure this out and be in a place to be pretty good in 3 years, and no matter where you are. Granted, they had the Watson contract hanging over them. I think you can make an argument that they should have done this earlier for sure.
Yeah.
where they have the Watson contract just hanging over their head and they don't really have any chance to really go for it. And all he was doing was helping them win a couple games and probably have a lower draft
Right.
pick. I don't know. I think they made out fine.
That's the thing with Miles Garrett. He is, as we've said a million times, like generational pass rusher. He even said he's like hunting down Bruce Smith's 200 career sacks. Gonna, it's a lot to ask to get there, but it's technically statistically possible if he stays at this pace. With all that being said about Miles Garrett, it shows me the gap in value between a top line quarterback and a top line pass rusher because like Miles Garrett has been incredible as he has, like the Browns still are kind of that, like the baseline for the Browns has never been more than like 6 or 7 wins with him there. Obviously, he's made the playoffs on 2 separate occasions with them. Whereas like you have a quarterback in that same tier, so to speak. And it's like the baseline's 10, 11 wins. And so it's just the difference because you look at like what positions you value. Quarterbacks obviously won by a considerable margin. Like you could argue pass rushers probably in that conversation to be number two. And you get the top line pass rusher and it's still not translating to win. So, that's something I like. Obviously, Miles Garrett's ridiculously incredible, but it just, and to me, it showed the difference in value of like the difference between a top line quarterback and the top line any other position. So the other trade happening that I'm less intrigued by is the AJ Brown trade to the Philadelphia Eagles for a first and a third.
Importantly, being a 2028 first round pick as well.
Correct. Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
I'm I want to get your thoughts on it of the actual trade itself. I feel like the Eagles got probably what market value was considering what Jalen Waddle went for and considering what DJ Moore went for. But like how if you're the Patriots, like when you look at the Patriots, I guess how much does this raise their floor considering like you're basically swapping out Stephon Diggs for AJ Brown?
First off, just because I checked it real quick, Miles Garrett is 74 and a half sacks away from 200. If you
Is
played
that
him
age 30?
level for 4 more years, he could do it in 4 years if you played
That's
him
a
level, which is
yeah, that's a
20
huge
sacks a season,
ask.
which is a massive ass. But there's no
Yeah.
reason, honestly, that he can't be one of these like Julius Peppers that plays for 15 years or whatever and
Right. Bruce Smith, how old was
plays for
Bruce Smith
nine
in
more
his
years.
last Bruce Smith was 40 in his final season. So
Yeah,
realistically, that's at least 10. If Miles Garrett gets there, that's 10 more seasons.
with eight
I
sacks.
mean, right. And we'll see if that's possible. Like Miles Garrett, like, I don't know, like the final 5 seasons of Bruce Smith's career were 7 sacks, 10 sacks, 5 sacks, 9 sacks, and 5 sacks. That's how many sacks is that? That's 36 sacks in 5 years where he was basically just like meh. You know what I mean? Like Miles Garrett could do that. Now, with that being said, I'm not like rooting for him to do it or not rooting for him to do it. Nevertheless, AJ Brown, what do you make of that trade?
I think it makes a lot of sense for both sides. I think the relationship with the Eagles had just deteriorated enough where it was time to go. I think they got fair compensation. I think a first round pick for what I think he's like 29, 30 now.
Yeah,
Makes sense to be 1 year later. You push that forward so it's a little bit less valuable. And next year's draft is supposed to be so good. I think the Eagles made out fine. Um, I think it helps the Patriots a lot to have that like bona fide outside receiver. Drake May was the best deep ball thrower in the league last year statistically, and I think that helps them a lot. And I think it really raises the floor and opens a lot of things up for the Patriots. I do think overall, even given this, they're still a prime regression candidate.
yeah,
I think given the schedule and everything that kind of transpired last year, they kind of hit the upper end of like their potential outcomes, their variance. And I think that probably comes down. They might be a better team next year and have a worse record and not go as far in the playoffs. I think that's a very, 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 very realistic thing to happen.
yeah.
Um,
My thing
I
with
think
this,
they're better for sure. And I think AJ Brown will have at least 1 to 2 really good seasons with Drake May. I think they pair really well.
well, that's the thing with AJ Brown is that he's a year younger. He's entering his age 29 season, whereas Miles Garrett will be 31 by the time the playoffs start. And I almost feel more confident that Miles Garrett will be good for longer than AJ Brown. I don't know exactly why I feel that. Maybe because it's just Miles Garrett's been incredible for so long. AJ Brown in a very run heavy offense put up just barely over 1,000 yards the last 2 seasons. Partially, I'm assuming partially why he wanted out because it's like, hey, if he considers himself the best receiver in the NFL, why is he stacking up only 1,000 yards?
Can I stop you there just for one quick second to spread some
Sure.
propaganda?
Let's hear it.
I saw somewhere, I don't even know how true this is. I saw it on Twitter. There was something about how
Never
like
lied
AJ
before.
Brown's like or cheated on his wife or something, and then Jalen Hurts' uh wife like found out and told AJ Brown's wife, and then AJ Brown just then hated Jalen Hurts' wife, and then they like didn't go, someone wasn't invited to a wedding or something, and this just like added onto all of it. Could be complete fabrication, but I don't really care about spreading propaganda to four people that watch this video. So I just want to throw that out there that that relationship might have been like long gone on top of the struggles they had on the field.
That is what people said. The AJ Brown Hassan Reddick. I just looked it up. LaShawn McCoy says it's false, but that's LaShawn. I mean, I don't know. I have
He
no
does a
clue.
lot.
Uh, yeah, so he does a lot of podcasts, so there's a lot to say. I don't know. AJ Brown, he'll be like, there's not too much to say. I think he'll be fine. My question was like, how quickly will he regress?
He showed
The,
more aggression than Miles Garrett, like for sure. Miles
right,
Garrett
exactly.
career
And
and
that's the
AJ
thing is
Brown
like,
just on
dude,
the down.
he's like, and again, I know it's a run heavy offense. I know that he's not the only like top target on that team, but like he's not put up incredible numbers, the last 2 years, which is probably more of the circumstances that I've talked about. That's the bigger concern. I would ask, out of the three big receiver trades, AJ Brown, Jalen Waddle, and DJ Moore, like which one do you think was the most win-win, so to speak? I think you could argue it's probably the AJ Brown one.
The most win-win.
Yeah, like or let me put it this way: which team receiving the receiver won, so to speak, the most? Either or. Like, how would you rank the trades
I
in
think
terms
AJ
of?
Brown is the best receiver of the three.
Right, right.
I'd probably go Brown Waddle more,
Yeah,
but I think I've been doing some just like very preliminary, just like messing around mock drafts and fantasy and stuff. People seem to be just like very low on DJ Moore, and I think he's going to
yeah.
be really good next year.
He is.
Like I
I would.
say that,
Yeah,
like he's third in that list, but I think I'm on like a DJ Moore like support train, I feel like.
yeah. I mean, he's gonna like if you look back at what the Bills were doing last season at wide receiver, like by the end of the year, Brandon Cooks
Was
was their
like
number
counting on
one.
to yeah.
He was their number one wide receiver on the outside. He's not on an NFL roster. You could argue the Bills should bring him back. I would teach their own. Like Keon Coleman was healthy scratches.
Yeah.
Tyrell Shavers was putting up 90 yards in certain games. Like it's ridiculous. Like DJ Moore is going to get a million targets. He's basically never missed games. Like he's ridiculously always been healthy. The rap sheet on him is that he plays hurt a lot. So you could argue if that's good or not. Like he's going from a system with rather not a system, but like a wide receiver room in Chicago that was like it was stacked. Like right, it was packed.
Well, I
And
think Ben Johnson had two young guys and he's like trying
yes,
to build a foundation and he very clearly had like a stamp of like I'm going to select
right.
these two guys and Colston Loveland and that's how we're going to move forward.
Yeah,
And just DJ Brown just fell to fourth in the pecking order when he was great a year before that or whatever it was, 2 years before that. With
right.
freaking
Yeah.
Justin Fields.
Yeah, he had 1,300 yards in 2023, admittedly 136 targets. But I don't think like he's going to get over 100 targets, I would guess. Like he's going to get a ridiculous amount of targets. He'll put up yards. Fantasy wise, I really like DJ Moore. Admittedly, the Bills kind of turned into a run heavy offense under Joe Brady. So we'll see how much anyone's putting up yards. But
That's
he's
also
he's
fair.
he's a floor raiser for the Buffalo Bills. And if Dalton Kincaid's healthy, Dalton Kincaid might get a crap ton
Well, even to the
of
Joe Brady part, he's already coached him.
yes in Carolina, and then
Yeah.
he obviously got fired by Matt Rule. Crazy, but You know what's crazy about Joe Brady? I know we're running out of time. Joe Brady in 20, what, when did LSU won the national championship? 2019, right?
Y-
20, 2019, 2020 season. If you had told someone that in 2019 to 2020 that Joe Brady would be coaching Josh Allen in 2026, you'd be like, whoa, what, that's going to be incredible. Like, and now it's just kind of like there's a lot of trepidation around it. But we are running out of time. Tim, anything I have not mentioned that we have not mentioned that you want to get to before we kick out of here?
no, I mean that's really it. One thing I want to do, just because it randomly popped into my head when you mentioned the Sabres next time, as someone that is very strictly like a football and basketball fan, the Sabres had one of the most insane turnarounds, and because
Yeah.
it's hockey, I don't think it gets talked about enough. I want to save that for like a full thing that you can kind of teach me on, maybe next
Sure.
episode or something. I think that'd be a cool thing to look back on. Um, but I'm just excited that we got this going again. We kind of are on very different schedules with work, so I hope that we can find some
We'll make it
consistent.
happen. We
Yeah.
will make it happen. He is Tim Fournier. I am Ian Mills. Follow us on freaking every website known to man. We will see you for episode 44. I think the Ernie Davis episode. Next time on Start the Rebuild. We'll fact check that. There's 8 people watching. If we have 8 people watching and you know who Ernie Davis is and what number he wore, sound off in the comments. We appreciate we appreciate you watching.
Peace.
Bye.